Hey guys, welcome to No Tux Allowed. And Bigpod, I have a question for you.
What?
Do you think it's possible for us to buy .trump before Trump buys it?
No.
Are you sure?
I am pretty sure because aren't there quite hard requirements
Well, you
for
see,
you to even own a domain?
I am certain that, I could find some kind of VC funding and, and get them excited about the idea of owning a top level domain. And then they just throw money at me like they keep throwing it at AI.
Well, can you find it in the enough time?
That's the real question. Cue the music. Hey guys, welcome to No Tux Allowed. I'm your host Josh, and today I'm wearing a gray t-shirt, mostly because it's my last clean shirt, because I'm going to be doing laundry after this recording. Bigpod, apparently only the dead are allowed in your household right now.
I think so, yes.
I mean, that's at least what your shirt says, that I can see.
And I don't know what it says below because this part is definitely far more upcapped than the lower part. It's an old shirt.
Ah, okay. I'm assuming that's a band shirt.
No idea.
I'm certain that somebody can do the Googling for us. That way we don't have to. Because it turns out that, I don't even use Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently Mr. Big Pot likes to Bing it. And, I just use a self-hosted search infrastructure. Of which, most of the time, I'm just using, Brave search results. But anyways, we did some searching on the internet, and we found this tweet by a guy named Bra Lynch. That's actually his name. He has initiated Valve Watch.
Yes. Well, just fun fact. Actually, his name is Bradley.
Well, I'm
At
just
least
looking at
that's.
his Twitter name. That's my.
At least he says. Sadly, it's Bradley. So
Yep.
I guess he might not be exactly the most fan of the name.
Maybe. But anyways, he's been looking at U.S. imports, just for the U.S. the United States here, and he says that Valve has received a ton of game consoles these past couple weeks to their USA distribution warehouse.
Yeah.
Now, these are game consoles, not controllers. They received a shipment of wireless PC controllers a few months ago. So,
Yes.
this might be the Steam machine. At least that's what everybody else is claiming.
It could also be Steam Deck, or potentially could be the so-called Steam Frame.
Yeah, now in the event you don't remember, the Steam Frame is their VR headset,
Yeah,
which
the
is
wireless VR headset.
yep, which is capable of running VR games by itself. So it does qualify as a game console.
Yeah.
But of course, they advertise the Steam machine as a PC. So
Yep.
that's why it could be a Steam Deck or Steam Frame, because
Yeah, but
they don't advertise those as the same thing. But at the same time, we also see in the patch notes of SteamOS 3.8.3 that they are adding more support for Steam machine hardware. So that's
for
where people
upcoming Steam machine hardware.
yeah, for the upcoming Steam machine hardware, which is where everybody is coming to the conclusion that this is the Steam machine, even though we have no official conclusion.
Well, I'm I'm gonna say I read more, and apparently the number that they came up with, it was Steam Machine. There is about 20,000 units, which, yeah, makes sort of sense for the kind of initial sale we should expect from Steam Machine.
Uh,
So the catch is, what I think is that since there was such a, shall we say, attack on Steam Machine, why would anybody wanna buy it and so on, which you guys know we disagree. I really badly wanna buy one soon, otherwise I'm gonna be buying a Mac Mini. Well, the reality is that 20,000 might not actually be like a number that would be like too big, because again, a lot of people were turned off by it, so it would make sense to actually for them to actually buy or like make less than a large amount, and then just see where they go from there.
it's either that or it could just be really expensive, so they don't expect to sell a whole lot anyway.
Yeah, I guess then we're buying Mac Mini.
Yeah, but we're really just on like a wait and see approach right now.
Yep.
That said, just remember, a Steam Machine is just an x86 computer.
Yeah.
If you want to get a Steam Machine like device now, you can just get it, and probably get a faster system than the Steam Machine itself would be.
Sure.
At the very least, have more graphics memory, which is always not a bad thing to have.
Sure, but in such a small form factor.
Probably not nearly as small, but you can get close. I've been looking.
And
You can get close.
and then more importantly, not having to build it myself.
Oh, that I can't guarantee.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind having a slightly bigger box, it's totally doable.
I want a box that I can put under essentially my monitor. So like I have a shelf below my monitor that's about yay tall. So like a small cube.
So then just get yourself one of those many hundreds of micro PCs out there. B-Link is a pretty popular brand for them.
Yes.
So you could do that, and then just
but-
load up like a distro such as Bazite, because that's probably the one you would use. But you could also use the alternatives of Chimera OS, or you could just make your own, because we could totally do that.
But the reality is, at that point, with the prices currently at, it would be more economic to buy myself a Mac Mini.
Probably. Which, thankfully, they do make Steam for macOS.
Yeah, I don't care about the game performance. I care about it being small and powerful enough that I can do hardware based video. It's called hardware based video
Hardware accelerated
decode.
Hardware video
Hardware accelerated video decode. Yes.
Oh, video decode. Okay, well, let me tell you
Yeah.
something, Mr. Bigpod. A current
What?
gen Intel CPU can handle that perfectly fine.
Great, but all the mini PCs I can get at like near me all eclipse the price of Mac Mini.
That's true. That's true.
That's the problem. And there
And,
go.
you know,
There go.
That's
I
probably
can either wait and support a company I like Valve, or I can go and buy an Apple with its horrendous operating system.
well. You see, they have this wonderful thing called Asahi Linux. You could just install that on your Mac Mini. To my
Yeah,
understanding, it's
and-
Fedora based.
Yeah, and basically disable all the benefits of the hardware I would be buying.
Well, I mean, you could just use the HDMI port for like your audio, right?
Sure,
Audio works over the GPU. Just not
great. But
not.
does Bluetooth work?
I don't know, actually. It might. Who knows? Uh, Apple really has. Uh, Apple owns like the better parts of the Bluetooth spec, so uh, they might have some special sauce going on with that hardware for all we know. But anyways, we got to move on because I got a warning from everybody that I knew this week saying that Linux is vulnerable, Linux is compromised. That normal
Yeah.
deal. There's a vulnerability, and it made general news. So now, now I can't talk people into switching to Linux because it's not safe. Even though we get the kernel announced a vulnerability, and then they immediately sent another response saying that hey, this vulnerability is fixed.
Yeah.
So
Remember, in a lot of cases, these vulnerabilities are known to the maintainers weeks, sometimes even months before they become public.
yep.
And they only become public without knowledge of the actual like maintainer, if the maintainer doesn't respond or in any way act.
This is true. So the vulnerability we're talking about is CVE 2026-31431, also known as copy fail. Now, I have the official kernel.org announcement and the EU summary, which, kind of makes it more digestible for us. But according to the EU summary, no distribution has shipped a fixed kernel package, which that's not necessarily true. In fact, quite a few of them have already fixed it. But at least at the time that we're recording this, so you just got to keep that in mind. That's what's going on. But overall, what it is that it's an issue with like the cryptographic systems within the Linux kernel itself. They just found a way to get around that. So which means that you were able to just run a simple script as just any user on the system, and suddenly become root.
Yeah.
So obviously, it requires you having access to the system, whether it be physical or remote.
Yeah.
Which
You need to have SSH essentially, or direct access to the machine.
yeah, which yes, you could argue that this is a non-issue at that point because you could just disable SSH, but there are plenty of other avenues to be able to get access to a system remotely.
Yes. But remember, there are also many other avenues to gain root.
Yep.
So this isn't such a problem. It is escalation privilege problem, but there are always escalation privilege problems in Linux because of course they are. It's software.
Yeah. But this one is coming from the kernel itself, which means now where this really becomes a bit of a thing. Copy fail was discovered by AI.
Oh, great.
Yes. So let's talk about this, right? So there's this guy that's a security researcher, right? He suspects that there's an issue in like this kernel module. And he can't really find it, but he's just seeing like things that are like kind of questionable. So he passes it through to an AI agent, and he just says that, "Hey, I think that there's an issue here. Can you point that out to me?" And the AI agent finds it, and even generates a simple Python script to prove the vulnerability. Of which, when I learned about this, I grabbed the script and I ran it on my local system just to see what would happen. And yes, and in fact, is the thing that happened. Thankfully, Gentoo already has a fix.
Great.
That said, if for some reason your distribution of choice does not have a fix for it, there's a simple script you can run to disable the kernel module because heaven forbid your system's probably not using it. And then you'll have a secure system. That said, all the kernels that matter of 6.18, 6.19, and 7.0 have already been fixed. So that covers the majority of fairly recent distribution releases. Now, if you're on a distribution that ships an older kernel, such as Debian Stable, they already have a fix within I believe the testing branch, and I believe the security team has a proposed update available as well, which would mean that you'll probably have an update within a week as of us recording this. So, and then Fedora, I believe, already has a fixed kernel, as well as like all the other fairly upstream distributions. Unfortunately, I don't really watch anything else because, for the most part, it's a solved issue. But, Bigpod, I want to take a moment and talk about just like the sentiment that we get with this news around Linux vulnerabilities. I mean, I understand that yes, they are big issues, but why is it whenever we get this random vulnerability in like Linux-based systems specifically, and then it just blows up the entire tech world, where in the casual spaces where it's just yeah, well, I'm never going to install Linux. I'm just going to stick with Windows. And in fact, you should drop your crappy Linux system and install Windows. Because Linux is vulnerable to this. And it's well, how about we talk about the latest Windows CVE? Because at last I checked, there was over 2,000 available for the operating system.
The reasons are multiple. First one being that high profile Linux vulnerabilities are far in between, so we're not used to them. But second problem is actually that even to this day, there are people who advertise Linux as a security thing. You're safer by running Linux compared to Windows. That's a big problem. Which is not true.
It could be.
Sorry.
It could be.
No. It's setting the wrong expectation.
I mean, yes, it does set the wrong expectation, but it could be true simply because the majority of people that have a Windows account on their Windows operating system happens to have administrator privileges.
Yes, but not in the way you would think. It's the exact same way as you having sudo access.
That is true. They don't.
It's not a direct. You can do whatever you want. You can escalate to do whatever you want.
Yeah, and Windows does make it a bit more convenient that you don't have to type in a password, but you can also configure sudo to not ask for a password every time you want to run it as well. Yep. But anyways, let's move on from this. But AI found this vulnerability. Does that mean that more eyes on code is not necessarily a valid argument anymore because it turns out that nobody was looking?
We knew that nobody was looking. We knew that already.
Well, of course, because it hasn't been fixed.
Not just that, but we should go back. We can go back 5-6 major high splash vulnerabilities. Heartbleed. We can go slightly forward. Log4j. We can go a bit forward. Java vulnerability in their etcdsa or whatever it's called.
I mean, shoot, we could talk about vulnerabilities from the hardware level of Spectre and Meltdown.
Yes, but no. What I'm specifically talking about open source.
Yeah.
project vulnerabilities where supposedly more eyes are on the projects.
Yeah.
That is a problematic assumption to be had. Like, you're essentially saying, I don't have to look at this code because I think somebody else is looking at the code. But you have zero proof that it actually is. Somebody else is looking at the code, but more importantly, understanding the code.
Well, I mean, and to further prove our point, we can reference back to the XZ utils vulnerability we talked about many months
Yes.
ago, where it turns out that,
Yes.
yeah, probably nobody was looking at that code besides the guy that was scamming the guy that was maintaining the package.
Yeah. And like, remember, heartbeat vulnerability, which is one of the like big ones, as I like to say, it was the vulnerability in the bleeding heart of secure internet or secure communications.
Yeah, an open
In the
SSL
open
vulnerability, if I remember
SSL.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
The and the fact was that the vulnerability was there for many years before it was found, yet nobody of the so many people that supposedly looked at OpenSSL and other high profile projects found it. That tells me within, I think it was like 10 years or something like that, that tells me that nobody is looking at the code just to check, except maybe bad guys. So I think
Which,
AI is making us safer now by actually disclosing and finding these vulnerabilities.
yeah, that said, the security researcher did do some due diligence with this
Of
AI tool and
course.
confirming that this is real because it's a privilege
Yeah.
escalation vulnerability. That is a big deal.
Yeah.
And of course, if he posts this on like the kernel mailing list, and everybody says, "Hey, your AI agent told you everything's wrong. This is not a real vulnerability." We're gonna make the news joking about that guy.
Yeah.
So, this was a case of AI doing something right for us, and we're probably going to see a lot more of this in the future.
Yeah, and
Because
that's one of the good uses of AI.
heaven forbid, as far as I know, uh, we can just like pull in the Xorg server source code, point an AI agent at it, and it will probably find many, many, many vulnerabilities we know absolutely
Yeah.
nothing about. Because
Yeah.
heaven forbid,
I really hope they let publicly Anthropic lets their supposedly cybersecurity centered model called Mythos, they let it at the Xorg source code. I would really love to see the number of vulnerabilities it would find.
and of course, as soon as they disclosed that they did that, people are going to be asking them to check all the Wayland implementations, see if they're actually secure. And of course, as soon as there's a single vulnerability found in the Wayland spec, people are going to say,
Yeah.
Wayland is dead. Go back to Xorg.
Yeah.
Completely disregarding the previous news article.
The 1,000 CVEs inside Xorg.
Yeah, but anyways, since we're on the topic of software development, we're going to be talking about a terminal that I've never used.
I use it
Oh, you use it? Well,
on macOS.
that's true. That's true. So we're talking about the Ghostty terminal.
Yes.
To my understanding, it's a fantastic terminal, but
It's a fancy terminal.
it's a fancy
Not
one.
anything special in particular, but it is a fancy one, and it works. And it's the one I remembered off the top of my head that it works on macOS. So I was like, here we go, install it.
Yep. Hey, but we're not talking about a review of Ghostty here, because Ghostty made an announcement saying that they're leaving GitHub. So, this is actually a news article about GitHub rather than Ghostty. So, GitHub, the platform, is the largest Git forge in use today. It is, in fact, so large that people think that GitHub is the company that created Git, when in fact Git predates GitHub by at least 20 years. So that's a fun fact for everybody. But GitHub has been having problems, and it's getting to the point where people are leaving GitHub. And even GitLab has had announced like a couple weeks ago that they're getting more user signups than ever before on like the main GitLab server. And we're hearing about these companies moving off of GitHub to like self-hosted infrastructure. We've talked about that a couple times if I remember right. But for like the more casual user that goes to GitHub to like check and download a script, they might not have noticed these vulnerabilities. But
these problems, not vulnerabilities, problems.
Well, yeah, problems. But there are vulnerabilities for GitHub too. In fact, there's like a recent CV and everything about it, but we're not going to talk about that one. But Bigpod, you're a software developer to some extent. You make use of continuous integrations programs on GitHub, right?
Yes.
How many times in the past year have you tried to push an update, run your GitHub action workflow, only for it to never run because it turns out the actions are down?
Well, the problem isn't it never runs. The problem is it runs a bit and fails inexplicably.
And then you can't figure out why.
Yes, that's a big problem. Because it doesn't actually fail. It just stalls. And you don't know what the hell is happening.
And you go to like the GitHub status page, the official one, and find there's nothing down.
Yeah. And like it's all of that is like a big problem because, well, many of us rely on GitHub Actions to check whether our code builds, whether many of the things, whether it is with the right coding patterns, do linting, if there are linting problems, and like many tasks that you would normally like have scripts for. Now I have a script that happens on another computer. It doesn't, maybe could last like 20-30 minutes. You can in the meantime do something else, maybe with your code, another project, something that basically doesn't impede your work, whether it be a project or your actual work.
In fact, it's gotten to the point where you were asking me about setting about if I run my own Git server, which in fact I do, just not like a forge.
Like, let's be clear, I run my own server already
Yeah.
in my home network, but I want a public server so other people can see it, so that for my projects I am not reliant, or for anything that I put open source, I'm not reliant only solely on GitHub for other people to see. Sure, I'm gonna be putting things on GitHub as mirrors, but not originals.
Because according to the author that wrote this post for Ghostty, I think it's mitchellh.com. So Mitchell Hashimoto is the guy that's behind it. He's been tracking like every he's been marking on a calendar every single time he's had issues with GitHub, and he said basically almost every single day has had an X on it. So obviously when GitHub goes down, they're not always going to tell everybody. No. Unless it's completely inaccessible, and it's obvious that their issues are becoming more prevalent, not necessarily because of AI, because they were having issues before the AI boom as well.
Let's be clear. I don't think AI has anything to do with this, like them writing slop code or whatever.
It could be that
nothing. This has to do with the fact that AI exists, writes code, and writes substantially or exponentially more code than has been ever written before. Within last month, there have been Like more repositories created than have been created, like within a year or even more at some point.
In fact, there are even people writing uh, joke AI agents that will just sit there and contribute nothing but like shit post code and just push it
Yeah,
upstream to GitHub.
and that's a big problem because their infrastructure is what is the problem. So as far as I know, for the most part, they still use Ruby language. Ruby language, as I am very acutely aware, is extremely problematic to scale. How do I know? I host a Mastodon instance.
Yeah. Now, the big thing about Ruby in this case is that historically the reason why GitHub uses Ruby is because they had very close ties to like the Ruby on Rails developer,
Yeah.
and so they decided that they were going to. So they signed up to be like the example of scaling the Ruby language, and overall, I think that they've done a fantastic job with them.
Yes. But problem is that it is far like the language I use today is Golang. This is the language me and my band of AI robots write.
Well, you're also working primarily with Docker containers, so that does make sense.
Yes, me and my band of uh, AI workers within my quarter of AI writing only. Well, we wrote quite a bit of Go code, and believe me when I say it, I can scale a, a shit-tastic Go program I threw together with all sorts of AI bullshit in there, like AI-isms, and all. I don't even need to look at the code as long as it runs correctly, and I can tell you, I'll be able to scale it to the levels that GitHub team cannot scale Ruby. Of course, there's a lot more code with GitHub, but I'm trying to tell you, with my Go code, which is shitastic, I can scale it a lot easier to much higher degrees because of how scalable Go gets. With Ruby, you have things like Sidekick, you have to have other bunch of bullshit. It's really annoying to scale, and you need to have a lot more horizontal and vertical capacity to scale to the same degree compared to a much lighter language like Go.
Yep. So, obviously, we probably have like one or two listeners that keep running into these issues with GitHub as well. So let's
Keep
talk about.
seeing a unicorn.
Yeah.
That's the fun one. There
Yeah.
is a unicorn that shows up on your page if GitHub is down for you, and you go, "Oh great, oh great, oh
Yeah.
great, oh great."
Yeah. So
That's a good day.
let's talk about some of the alternatives, right? Obviously, I mentioned GitLab earlier,
Yeah,
right? And then
but GitLab is okay if you wanna run a hosted version or wanna use a hosted version.
because if you pay the GitLab.com money, they're costing you a lot more than GitHub.
Yeah, but they also have free options.
That's true. That's
But
true.
guess what? Guess what? What will happen if everybody switches to GitLab? Exact same thing.
Yep.
Because, fun fact, GitLab is also written in Ruby.
So let's talk about the other alternative, uh, Codeberg.
Well, yeah, for the hosted version, the other real alternative nowadays is Codeberg. Yes.
Yes. Now, Codeberg happens to run an open source Git forge program called Forgejo,
Yes.
which is a fork of Git.
Yes, after they became very, very
Yep.
corporate.
Yep. So, obviously, Bigpod, you were talking about setting up a Forgejo instance.
Yes.
I don't know if you'll have it set up by the time this episode comes out. but I told you,
No.
put it on Tuxbase so I can use it too.
Yeah. Sure.
So, well, we're going to set that up just for the fun of it, and we'll see how long
Yeah.
it takes before, we all crash and burn on it.
Yeah. Now, of course, I should also mention that you can also, for free, because it is, for the most part, open source, host yourself GitLab.
You can.
But
It's a monster of an application.
once again, it's a Ruby application, which means it's a pain in the ass to deploy. There is a fairly easy version where you just drop a single Docker container and it's running. But that's like they've done all the work for you. If you want to run something that is like actually scalable, so if you want to do it for your company or just you and your friends, and there's like hundred of your friends and their friends and acquaintances, or like a community, you ain't gonna be doing that Docker image. You're gonna be running a proper GitLab instance. At which point, you're gonna learn that Mastodon is a tiny little program that's very easy to maintain. Because even though I deploy GitLab with a Kubernetes Helm chart, I go insane every time I have to configure it, because the complexity of it is off the charts.
That said, if you would like to instead self-host Forgejo, it's written in Golang. So
Yes.
so you can fix it, Bigpod.
Yeah. First of all, I can fix it. Second of all, it's much smaller. The whole thing is the size, and it's like the whole thing with all of the operations. I believe it's the size of a single component for GitLab's more like proper broken out Kubernetes deployment.
Yeah, that said, it does also support like CI/CD systems as well, so you can do that. I don't know. I don't know if it can set up a container registry, but
yes,
you can also just do that yourself.
It has Forgejo has quite a lot of features. It is very much feature parity with GitLab, and in those features, it doesn't have some security features you will see on GitLab, like certain security scanning and stuff like that. But when it comes to like usable features for most people, you have things like, well, of course, you have issues, PRs, you have package registries, so not just Docker container registry. You can also have a Java Maven repository, I believe C# repository, I believe npm registry, and so on. Like actual important stuff that actually is usable, and actually I will take a use of.
Yep. That said, I do want to take a moment to talk about how I use a Git server. So
Sure.
I linked it to you, so you understand that my Git server basically is featureless.
Yes.
Because I use the built-in system in the Git command line command to set up a server.
Yeah.
Because realistically, I don't care for the fancy features of a Forge. I just want to have a local copy of my Git remote. That's it. That's it.
Well.
So, which means because I don't care to look at the code, because if I want to look at the code, I just clone it and then it's there.
Yeah, so, that works for something like you. But as soon as you try to collaborate with somebody, or a lot of the time, I'm not gonna be cloning the code if I just need to take a look.
Yeah. That's where it falls short is the collaboration because then we're having to collaborate much like how the Linux kernel collaborates.
Yes,
Make your own
over
fork and then
email.
submit a patch file.
Yeah.
Rather
And
than
here's another benefit of Forgejo, which GitLab is actually trying to catch up to, the, but we'll see how it will go. They might actually get to work together at some point.
maybe.
Forgejo is in actually in good middle to high to end of implementation of federation.
Ooh, activity pub
Yes.
federation. So that way, whenever you make a
Yes.
commit, it can be reported to our through our Mastodon instance. Go like, hey, this guy made a commit.
No,
If you really wanted
not
to.
like that.
Oh, okay.
Not like that.
Okay.
But, for example, you have your own instance of Forgejo. You wanna have like contribute to what is on my instance without making an account on my instance or
You could
put
just
an
use your
issue.
federated ID, which hey,
You can go
that's
on
convenient.
your instance, open the link to my repo. You can fork it, create an issue, and so on.
And
That's
even
the end
submit
goal.
a merge request because that's what it's
PR,
actually called.
everything like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
That's what is so great. And they're I believe in like mid to late stages of implementation.
Maybe. But tell you what, if you the listener is interested in Forgejo, we will have a link for it in the show notes. That way you can check it out too. Check it out because we spent an awful lot of time talking about it. So I'll drop a link to their official website for you. They have fantastic documentation on spinning up your own instance. But if you just want to give it a try and you don't mind registering an account, just make an account on codeberg.org. Because that is the hosted version of Forgejo that you can use. They've been running Forgejo for a very long time. So
before we continue, I should probably say there are other things as well you can use, not just Forgejo. Like there are things like Tangled and stuff like that.
I'm not gonna recommend SourceHut.
Yeah, of course, that's I wouldn't recommend. There is this thing called Tangled. This is what I heard of. It is built off, again, it also has some sort of federation protocol. But I am not sure because, in my opinion, the protocol isn't exactly great. It's the Blue Sky AT protocol. Not exactly the biggest fan of it. Yeah.
So federation through Blue Sky.
Essentially, yeah, through their
which
protocol.
Could be a thing that people have accounts on already. I don't have a Blue Sky account because I just don't see the point of making one because I don't even log into my Twitter account. Why would I want that? But anyways, let's move on to our last article here because this one's a doozy because Bigpod, I read it and I'm just thinking we literally just submit an idea for a top level domain and then we can buy it.
I wish it was that simple.
Well, technically, it is that simple. The issue is the cost of buying an ICANN domain is not cheap.
The problem is the privilege to think about buying the domain is close to $200,000.
Yeah,
just the privilege of submitting a request to be able to potentially buy a domain, a gTLD. And then, of course, you also have to have a lot of infrastructure. So it's really, really, really costly.
Yeah, so for the record, we're talking about the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, otherwise known as ICANN.
Yes.
Because they totally can. They are the group that operates basically the entire internet. They are the ones that make sure that certain ISPs can have IP addresses that they can sell to their customers for like their home internet access. These And they also operate the top-level domain system, as in the .com top-level domain, not like Tuxbase.com, but like the actual com part. That is a global top-level domain. So, for the first time in 14 years, they are taking applications. Now, last time this happened was in 2012, with over 1,200 new top-level domains being created, such as .google, .microsoft, .africa, and even .banana republic. According to TechRadar, there's a whole host of them. But this time around, I'm just sitting here looking at it and go like, we could buy .trump.
Yeah. I wish.
Yeah.
Again, the number to even just put a request is 200,000 or close to it. And that just gets you through the door. That's not even buying a domain.
Yeah, that's not actually purchasing the domain. That's just paying your way into the application.
That's for the privilege to then have the privilege to buy a domain.
And of course, if you get your domain, you have to renew it as well, and that's also not cheap.
Yes. And you have to pay for every registration. Despite you being the owner of the domain, you have to pay for every domain registration on your domain.
Yeah, that said, a beautiful thing is that ICANN is even now accepting applications in 27 different scripts, as in language scripting. The things you physically write, including Arabic, Chinese, Devanagari, and Thai. I hope I pronounced that second to last one appropriately. Which
I believe so.
This represents basically like hundreds of languages. This is going to be like a big thing for accessibility. Which means that, if say you're Japanese, you can type in Japanese entirely in your URL bar, rather than, having to figure out like the English name for a website. Which are great because, historically top-level domains have always been Latin-based scripts. So this is actually probably a good thing, because the internet in general is very English dominated, and I appreciate it coming from my side of the world, but I'm certain that Bigpod would like to see more Slovenian on the internet.
Probably, but who cares?
Yeah.
At least for me, because we do use Latin script with 3 editions, and those 3 editions are honestly irrelevant to this situation.
Yeah. So, anyways, if you have the funding available and you're willing to, pay for it, you can have your own top-level domain.
Yeah.
Because heaven forbid, I am not going to be registering .tuxbase anytime soon.
Yeah.
Because, I would register .base, but that's already taken. Thanks, Coinbase. But anyways, that's going to be it for the show. If you would like to send us some feedback, you can send us an email, contact@tuxbase.com. We even have a community Discord available, because, that's just where everybody else is. You can go to tuxbase.com/Discord to get the invite link, because, I don't want to pay Discord for discord.gg/Tuxbase, because that just costs money when, we could just set up an Nginx redirect pointing to a permanent link.
Yeah.
And of course, if for some reason Discord dystopia is a bit too much for you, we even have a community matrix server. The link for that is in the show notes, because heaven forbid, I don't know if I can tell people that they can go to hashtag Tuxbase /matrix or community.tuxbase.com and have the non-matrix users not even understand what we're talking about. But of course, if you would like to support our show, because heaven forbid, everybody that's been listening to our show for a while now knows that we self-host a lot of the things for this show. A lot.
Yeah, basically everything.
the core access of our audio podcast, you know, our I mean, heaven forbid, our Matrix server is a bit of a monster, as Bigpod found out. Same with that Mastodon server he's talking about hosting. That's hosted by us, managed of course by Bigpod, who is thankfully willing to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So just
I find it fun.
Yeah, so go to patreon.com/notuxallowed. Pay us some money there. We will give you the benefit of a higher quality audio feed because I know audio files exist. You will, instead of getting whatever you're getting now, you're getting 320 kilobits per second.
Yeah.
Mostly because that's what our recording software can record at. So, I'm sorry we can't do higher, but 320 kilobits per second on an MP3 file is still a lot of data.
Yep. Yes, it is.
So yes, it's not lossless. You don't want the lossless anyway. That slight compression, just makes that file just big enough that it's still very easy to distribute and downloads pretty quickly. But of course, you will also get bonus content in that same exact feed.
Yes.
Which it's been a minute since I put anything up in there for bonus content. I don't know about you, Bigpod.
Well, the last bonus content we did was the discussion about music.
Oh, of course. So, if you want to hear Bigpod talk about Slovenian music,
yes,
you can pay us money, and we'll give you.
Yeah.
You'll eventually get an email from us with a link to the RSS feed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Eventually.
Hopefully,
very, very, very quickly.
Hopefully, because it turns out that's a manual process for us, which we're working on a solution for that as well. But in the meantime, Bigpod, I have some Warhammer miniatures to paint. You have yourself a great rest of your day.
And I have a Forgejo instance to run.
Well, to set up
Goodbye.
and run.
Exactly. Goodbye.